The discovery. The winds howled across the barren surface of Athenis 5, a desolate planet on the edge of known space. The alien excavation team, led by Commander Vorkath, had been digging for weeks without success. They had almost given up hope when their scanners picked up an anomaly, a dense metal object buried deep beneath the rocky terrain. Vorkath's claws twitched with anticipation as the excavation bots dug faster, revealing what looked like the edge of a massive structure. As the dust settled, the team stood in awe. Before them was the tip of an enormous vessel, half buried in the ground. Its surface was a dull metallic gray, covered in strange markings that seemed immune to time. Unlike anything in their archives, the design was both simplistic and imposing. "What is it?" asked Jairus, the team's youngest scientist. His voice trembled with a mix of fear and excitement. "A relic," Vorkath replied, his deep voice carrying both reverence and suspicion. "But it's not from any species we know." The team carefully cleared the remaining dirt, revealing more of the vessel. It was enormous, at least 5 times larger than any ship the Galactic Council currently used. The strange markings on the hull became clearer, and Jairus pointed to a set of characters etched deeply into the metal. "What does that say?" Jairus asked, his translator struggling to interpret the symbols. The words, written in an ancient and unknown script, slowly translated into their language. "Built by humanity." Silence fell over the group. None of them had ever heard of humanity. The name did not appear in any galactic records, databases, or historical archives. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. "Is it a species?" one of the engineers asked. Vorkath's eyes narrowed. "Perhaps, or a myth." The team decided to enter the vessel. Using plasma cutters, they forced open a rusted hatch, revealing a dark interior. The air inside was stale but breathable, a testament to the ship's superior engineering. As they ventured deeper, the team noticed the ship's interior was surprisingly intact. The walls were lined with strange panels, their surfaces smooth and black, as if waiting to be touched. Jairus ran his hand over one of the panels, and suddenly, the ship came to life. Lights flickered on, casting a faint blue glow across the corridors. A low hum filled the air, and the floor beneath them vibrated softly. "What did you do?" Vorkath demanded, stepping back. "I don't know," Jairus stammered. "I just touched it." The lights grew brighter, and a voice echoed through the ship, speaking in a language none of them could understand. The words were sharp and commanding, yet strangely melodic. The ship's systems began to activate, and one of the panels displayed a holographic map of the galaxy. "What kind of technology is this?" an engineer whispered, his voice filled with awe. "It's ancient," Vorkath said, his tone grave. "And yet it feels advanced, more advanced than anything we've seen." As they continued exploring, they'd reached what appeared to be the ship's control room. A massive chair sat at the center, surrounded by an array of consoles and holographic displays. One of the consoles was flashing, drawing the team's attention. Jairus hesitantly pressed a button, and the ship suddenly emitted a deep resonating sound. "What's happening?" Vorkath barked, his claws gripping his weapon. Before anyone could answer, a beam of light shot into the sky, piercing the planet's atmosphere. The crew watched in shock as the beam faded, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. "Commander," one of the engineers said, his voice shaking. I think we just sent a signal." "A signal," Vorkath repeated, his tone sharp. "To whom?" The team exchanged nervous glances. They didn't know, but whatever they had activated, it wasn't going unnoticed. Far across the galaxy, unknown ships began stirring in the dark void of space. Ancient systems blinked to life, and forgotten forces turned their attention toward Athenis 5. Whatever the crew had awakened, it was far from over. "Shut it down," Vorkath ordered, but the ship's systems ignored their commands. Instead, the lights grew brighter, and the voice from earlier returned, louder this time. A single word appeared on every screen in their language. Warning. The crew felt a chill run down their spines. This wasn't just a relic. It was something far more dangerous. The signal's reach. The silence on Athenis 5 was broken by the constant hum of the relic's engines as they roared back to life, shaking the ground beneath the excavation team. The bright beam that had shot into the sky was now gone, but its effects were far-reaching. Across the galaxy, the signal had traveled faster than light, reaching places untouched by modern fleets. It was as though the ship had called out to something, or someone. On a distant moon orbiting the capital of the Galactic Council, Elder Theric stared at the holographic display with a mix of dread and fascination. The signal had been detected moments ago, originating from an uncharted planet. Its frequency was unlike anything in the Council's archives, but Theric's eyes widened as the data matched one of the galaxy's oldest legends. "This cannot be," he whispered, his voice barely audible. The council chamber buzzed with activity as representatives from every major species debated what to do. The signal, decoded partially, contained fragments of a warning. Humanity will rise again. The name sent shivers through the gathered officials. Humanity, a word only found in the deepest, most restricted corners of galactic history. They were a species erased from memory, a species whose existence was whispered about in cautionary tales. No records explained their disappearance, only that they were a race of unparalleled ingenuity and destruction. "This could be a trap," barked Ambassador Kren of the Tholics. His voice cut through the noise, his insect-like mandibles clicking with agitation. "We should send a fleet to destroy whatever remains of this relic." Elder Theric shook his head. Destroying it might unleash something far worse. If the stories are true, humanity did not vanish. They chose to disappear. Chose. Kren hissed. Why would a species capable of such power simply leave? Theric looked at the gathered representatives. Perhaps they didn't leave. Perhaps they left something behind. Meanwhile, on Athenis 5, the relic had fully powered up. The alien team frantically worked to shut down its systems, but nothing they did seemed to work. The lights pulsed rhythmically, as if alive, while the mysterious voice continued to echo through the ship, repeating phrases no one could understand. "Commander, the signal. It's too strong," Juris said, his voice trembling. "It's broadcasting to every corner of the galaxy." Vorkath's patience was wearing thin. "Then stop it. We cannot let this, whatever it is, fall into the wrong hands." Before they could attempt another override, the ship's holographic map shifted. The galaxy was displayed in vivid detail, and dozens of red dots appeared, moving toward Athenis 5. Jerris's hands trembled as he pointed to the screen. "They're ships," he said. "Warships, and they're all heading here." Vorkath's heart sank. The relic had not only awakened itself, it had awakened the attention of the galaxy's most powerful factions. The dots represented fleets from every corner of space, drawn by the signal's undeniable pull. Yet something else caught Juris's attention. "Commander, look at this," he said, highlighting a faint, almost invisible dot on the map. It was moving against the flow of the other ships, coming from a sector labeled only as restricted. "What sector is that?" Vorkath asked. Juris hesitated before answering. "It's the Void. No ships go there." In the Void, a place feared for its unexplored darkness, an ancient fleet stirred. Its ships, long dormant, began to hum with life. These vessels were sleek and metallic, unlike any modern designs. Their movements were precise, almost too perfect, as if controlled by something beyond ordinary AI. At their heart was a colossal ship, a dreadnought the size of a small moon, its hull engraved with words in the same mysterious language found on the relic. On board, a lone figure sat in stasis. The figure's eyes flickered open for the first time in thousands of years. A voice echoed in their mind, clear and commanding. "Eos Prime has been activated. Humanity's last hope must rise." The figure, human in every sense of the word, exhaled deeply. Their hands moved to the console before them, and the fleet responded instantly, their engines blazing to life. "It's time," the figure said softly, their voice carrying a weight of forgotten history. Back on Athenis 5, panic erupted as Vorkath and his team realized the magnitude of their mistake. Alien fleets were closing in, and they were running out of time. The Relic ship, now fully operational, began to shift. Its engines roared, and the entire structure trembled. It's trying to leave," Jarrus said in disbelief. "Not without us," Vorkath growled. "Everyone, back to the ship. If this thing is leaving, we're going with it." The crew scrambled aboard just as the Relic began to rise. Dust and debris filled the air as the massive vessel broke free from its earthly tomb. The planet's gravity seemed like a mere annoyance to the ship's ancient propulsion systems. As they ascended, the holographic map displayed one final warning: destination, Earth. Vorkath's blood ran cold. "What is Earth?" Jarrus shook his head. "I don't know, Commander. But whatever it is, this ship remembers." The story of humanity was no longer a myth. It was awakening. And the galaxy would soon learn why humanity had been feared and forgotten. The ship awakens. The Relic tore through the atmosphere of Athenis 5 with a thunderous roar, its engines blazing bright as it ascended into the void. The alien crew clung to whatever they could as the ship's systems came alive, humming with a power that felt almost sentient. Outside, the planet shrank into the distance, and the infinite darkness of space unfolded before them. In the control room, Vorkath barked orders, but it was clear the Relic had taken control. Panels lit up in sequences, displaying streams of data in the same ancient human script. The voice that had echoed faintly before now spoke louder, repeating cryptic phrases in an unrecognizable tongue. Jarrus stared at the screens, his mind racing. "Commander, it's like the ship is thinking." Vorkath growled. "Thinking? Ships don't think." "This one does," Jarrus replied, pointing to a screen where lines of code were rewriting themselves in real time. "It's adapting, reacting." Suddenly, the voice shifted, and the words began translating into the alien crew's language. The message was simple yet chilling. Primary objective: restoration. Secondary objective: defense. Warning: hostiles detected. Far from the Relic's flight path, fleets from various alien factions sped toward its location. Their designs were as diverse as their intentions, some sleek and predatory, others large and intimidating, bristling with weaponry. Each commander aboard these ships knew one thing: the Relic represented a power none of them could afford to let another faction possess. Among these fleets was Admiral Caven of the Krastan Dominion, a cunning strategist infamous for his ruthless tactics. As his ship's scanners tracked the Relic's movements, he stroked his scaled chin thoughtfully. "It's heading toward the old sector," Caven murmured to his second-in-command. "Earth. Earth." The officer repeated, puzzled. "That system has been uninhabitable for millennia." Caven's lips curled into a cruel smile. "Perhaps. But if the ship is human, then it's returning to its origin. And where there's origin, there's power." Back aboard the Relic, the alien crew watched in stunned silence as the ship's holographic map zoomed out to display its course. A glowing line connected their position to an unmarked sector on the galactic map. The destination: Earth. Jarrus's voice broke the silence. "Commander, I think the ship is taking us to wherever it was built." Vorkath folded his arms, his sharp eyes narrowing. "And why would it do that? What's on Earth?" Before Jarrus could speculate, alarms blared throughout the ship. The holographic map lit up with dozens of red dots converging on their position, enemy fleets. A deep rumble reverberated through the ship as its defensive systems activated. Panels slid open to reveal turrets and missile pods that looked primitive by modern standards, but exuded an air of raw, unyielding power. The ship's voice echoed again. "Threat detected. Engaging defense protocols." Without waiting for commands from the crew, the Relic launched its counterattack. Missiles streaked through space, each one guided by precision, unmatched by any known technology. Laser turrets fired with mechanical efficiency, dismantling the incoming fleet's vanguard before they could even get into range. Vorkath watched in awe as the Relic dismantled wave after wave of attackers. It's unstoppable. Not just unstoppable, Jarrus said, his voice trembling. It's alive. Amid the chaos, a hidden system activated deep within the Relic's core. A holographic figure materialized in the control room, startling the crew. It was humanoid, clad in an ancient uniform that gleamed with silver insignias. Its eyes glowed faintly, and its face was both familiar and alien, bearing a strange mix of human-like features. "I am Eos Prime," the figure said, its voice resonant and authoritative. "Guardian of the fleet, protector of humanity." The crew froze, unsure whether to respond or run. Vorkath found his voice first. "What is humanity? Why have you awakened?" Eos Prime tilted its head, as if considering the question. Humanity was the first, builders of the stars, defenders of the weak, destroyers of those who threatened the balance. Jarrus stepped forward cautiously. And what happened to them? For the first time, the hologram faltered, its glow dimming slightly. Humanity sacrificed itself to preserve the galaxy. Their legacy remains dormant, until now. The words hung in the air like a heavy weight. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, realizing they were aboard something far greater than a relic. This was a piece of history, a weapon of unmatched power, built by a species that had once dominated the galaxy. The pursuing fleets continued to close in, despite their heavy losses. Admiral Kaven, now within visual range of the Relic, watched as his fleet's weapons barely scratched its hull. "It's like it's reading our moves before we make them," his officer reported, frustration clear in his voice. Kaven sneered. "Then we force its hand. Send in the suppression drones. Overwhelm it." Back on the Relic, the crew braced as dozens of small, agile drones swarmed toward them. For the first time, the ship hesitated. Eos Prime's holographic form flickered, its voice strained. "System overload. Defensive measures insufficient. Manual intervention required." Vorkath stepped forward, gripping the central console. "What do you need us to do?" Eos Prime turned to him, its glowing eyes locking onto his. "Survive." Before anyone could respond, the ship's interior shifted. Panels retracted, forming new pathways and opening access to controls designed for manual use. The crew realized the ship was giving them a choice: help it, or be destroyed with it. Vorkath didn't hesitate. "Jarrus, take the left console. Everyone else, man those stations. If this thing wants us to fight, we fight." As they scrambled to their positions, Eos Prime's voice softened. "You are not human, but you carry the spark. Together, we will endure." The Relic surged forward, its defenses reignited by the combined efforts of the ship and its reluctant crew. The battle raged on, but the tide was turning, and somewhere deep within the ship's core, another system quietly activated. A stasis pod unlocked, its occupants stirring for the first time in thousands of years. Humanity was awakening. Humanity's legacy. The Relic thundered through the blackness of space, its engines pulsating with a rhythm that felt more organic than mechanical. Inside, the alien crew worked frantically, their roles dictated not by choice, but by the ship itself. Panels opened and closed as if alive, guiding their hands toward unfamiliar controls. Every movement seemed deliberate, as though the ship had a purpose it refused to reveal. In the command room, Vorkath stood before a flickering hologram of Eos Prime, his sharp claws twitching in frustration. "Explain yourself," he demanded. "Why are we part of this? What is your mission?" Eos Prime's glowing eyes fixed on him, unblinking. "The mission is survival. The legacy must endure." Jarrus, hunched over a console, interrupted. "Commander, I've accessed some of the ship's logs. They're fragmented, but there's something." Strange. Vorkath turned sharply. Speak. Jarrus hesitated, his voice barely above a whisper. This ship isn't just a relic. It's part of a fleet, one that was designed to protect the galaxy. But the last entry, it mentioned something called the Great Collapse. Humanity didn't just disappear. They sacrificed themselves to stop it. As the crew processed this revelation, the ship's central display lit up with an ancient recording. The image was grainy, showing a council of human leaders standing in a grand chamber. Their faces were stern, their voices filled with urgency. The threat is imminent, one of them declared. The galaxy cannot withstand it without unity. Another added, if humanity falls, the spark of hope must remain. This fleet will serve as our final safeguard. The recording ended abruptly, leaving the crew in stunned silence. What threat? Vorkath muttered, his voice thick with unease. What were they fighting? Eos Prime spoke, its tone grave. The collapse was not a single enemy, but a convergence of forces. Greed, war, and an enemy unlike any other. Humanity chose to sacrifice its presence to ensure others would survive. Jarrus frowned. But why erase themselves entirely? Surely, with their power, they could have. The hologram cut him off. Power unchecked becomes tyranny. Humanity understood this. They left behind their greatest tools, ships like me, to guide those who would come after. Outside, the battle raged on. Alien fleets swarmed the Relic, their desperation driving them to new extremes. Admiral Kyvan's suppression drones were relentless, exploiting every vulnerability they could find. Inside the Relic, alarms blared as one of the outer hulls buckled under the pressure. "We can't hold much longer," shouted one of the engineers. Eos Prime's hologram flickered. "Critical systems are failing. Reinforcements required." Suddenly, a new symbol appeared on the holographic map, a signal responding to the Relic's distress beacon. It was faint but unmistakable. Another human ship. The crew's eyes widened as the signal grew stronger. The map updated to reveal a massive structure drifting toward them from the edge of the galaxy. It was even larger than the Relic, its sleek design glinting against the void. Vorkath stared at the map. "Is that another ship?" Eos Prime nodded. "It is the Vanguard, one of humanity's dreadnoughts." The Vanguard arrived like a ghost from a forgotten age. Its engines emitted a low, ominous hum that reverberated across the battlefield. Alien fleets that had been converging on the Relic suddenly hesitated, their commanders unsure of what they were facing. Admiral Kyvan's confidence faltered as his scanners tried, and failed, to analyze the new arrival. "What in the name of the stars is that?" "It's human," his second-in-command whispered, fear evident in their voice. "Sir, we need to retreat." Kyvan slammed his fist on the console. "No. If we retreat now, we lose everything. All ships, fire on the dreadnought." Weapons fire erupted across the battlefield, but the Vanguard responded with eerie precision. Its shields absorbed the barrage, glowing faintly before redirecting the energy into devastating counterattacks. Beams of concentrated light lanced through enemy ships, cutting them apart like paper. The alien fleets began to scatter, their unity shattered. Inside the Relic, Eos Prime's hologram brightened. "The Vanguard has answered the call. Humanity's legacy endures." Jarrus's voice cracked as he watched the destruction unfold on the display. "This isn't just technology. It's something more. It's like the ships are alive." Vorkath nodded grimly. "Alive and far beyond us." As the Vanguard cleared the battlefield, its communication systems connected directly with the Relic. Another hologram materialized, this one of a human woman clad in an ornate uniform. Her presence was commanding, her eyes sharp and calculating. "I am Admiral Lyra Alien, commanding officer of the Vanguard," she said, her voice carrying the weight of authority. "You have awoken the Eos Prime. State your purpose." Vorkath hesitated, unsure how to respond. Finally, he said, "We didn't awaken it. It awakened itself." Admiral Alien's expression softened, a faint smile appearing. Then the time has come. The galaxy will know humanity's truth. A hologram faded, but not before adding one final command. Prepare. This is only the beginning. As the Relic and the Vanguard moved in formation, their combined presence exuded a power that could not be ignored. Across the galaxy, whispers spread of ancient ships and the name of a forgotten species, humanity. But for Vorkath and his crew, the question lingered. What was coming? And would even humanity's legacy be enough to stop it? The conflict. The Relic and the Vanguard traveled together, a formidable pair cutting through the galaxy's dark expanse. Their journey toward Earth was marked by a trail of silence from the alien factions. No fleet dared to engage, but their movements were shadowed by a growing unease that rippled across the galactic community. Inside the Relic, Vorkath and his crew wrestled with a growing realization. They were now part of something far beyond their comprehension. The ship's systems worked tirelessly, repairing damage and upgrading its defenses. Screens displayed endless streams of human data, much of it indecipherable even with the ship's translation systems. Jarrus, the young scientist, sat cross-legged in the control room, poring over what fragments he could understand. "Commander," he said, looking up from his console, "these logs, they don't just tell the story of humanity's past. They're warnings." "Warnings about what?" Vorkath asked, his tone sharp. Jarrus hesitated. "It's hard to say. The logs mention something called the cycle. It's not clear what it is, but humanity believed it to be inevitable. They built these ships, Eos Prime, the Vanguard, not just to protect their legacy, but to prepare for its return." Vorkath narrowed his eyes. "What is this cycle?" Jarrus shook his head. "I don't know, but whatever it is, they feared it more than extinction." Meanwhile, the Galactic Council convened in an emergency session. The arrival of the Vanguard had sent shockwaves through their ranks, and the rumors of a second human warship had only deepened their panic. "This cannot stand," bellowed Admiral Caven, now patched into the Council via hologram. His fleet had barely escaped the Vanguard, his pride dented and his reputation in shambles. "If these human ships are allowed to reach Earth, they'll awaken whatever secrets lie buried there. We must act now." Elder Theric, the oldest and most respected member of the Council, raised a clawed hand for silence. "Admiral Caven, your failure to contain the Relic is duly noted. However, rash actions now could provoke something far worse. Worse than a fleet of indestructible warships." Caven sneered. Theric's eyes gleamed with wisdom. "And fear. You forget, Admiral. Humanity didn't disappear. They chose to leave. If these ships are awakening, perhaps it is because the galaxy needs them again." Caven's hologram flickered as he leaned closer. "Or perhaps it's because they want revenge." Back aboard the Relic, tensions were high. The ship's systems had detected another fleet approaching, this one larger and more coordinated than the scattered forces they'd faced before. Eos Prime's hologram appeared, its expression calm but urgent. "Enemy fleet detected. Estimated arrival in 2 hours. Preparing countermeasures." Vorkath growled. "More attackers? Do they never learn?" Jarrus shook his head. "They're not here to learn. They're here to stop us." The Vanguard, now flying in formation with the Relic, sent a communication. Admiral Alien's holographic image appeared beside Eos Prime, her expression hard and unyielding. "We can't afford a prolonged engagement," Alien said. "The fleet is large enough to delay us indefinitely. If we don't reach Earth in time, the mission will fail." "What mission?" Vorkath demanded, his frustration boiling over. "You keep talking about missions and warnings, but no one tells us what's really going on." Eos Prime's hologram flickered. "The cycle has begun. If we do not reach Earth, the galaxy will fall." Vorkath's claws dug into the console. "What is the cycle?" Admiral Alien answered this time, her voice solemn. "The cycle is an event that occurs every 100,000 years. A force emerges, consuming and assimilating everything in its path. Humanity fought it once and barely survived. We knew it would return. Jarrus's face went pale. You mean, something is coming for all of us? Alien nodded. Yes, and this time, the galaxy is not prepared. The enemy fleet emerged from hyperspace, a vast armada of warships bristling with weapons. The Relic and the Vanguard moved into defensive formation, their combined firepower lighting up the void as the battle began. Vorkath's crew manned the Relic stations, their earlier fear replaced by determination. Guided by the ship's advanced AI, they unleashed a barrage of missiles and energy blasts, cutting through the enemy ranks with surgical precision. But the enemy fleet was relentless, their sheer numbers threatening to overwhelm even the Relic's formidable defenses. Admiral Alien's voice cut through the chaos. Eos Prime, engaged the Singularity cannon. The crew froze as Eos Prime's hologram hesitated. Singularity cannon requires manual authorization. I'll authorize it, Vorkath growled. What do we need to do? Eos Prime turned to him, its glowing eyes unreadable. Manual authorization requires direct neural input. The user must connect to the core. The process is irreversible. Vorkath stepped forward without hesitation. If it saves my crew, I'll do it. Jarrus grabbed his arm. Commander, wait. You don't even know what it'll do to you. Vorkath pulled free. It doesn't matter. If this is what it takes to protect us, I'll do it. Eos Prime guided Vorkath to the core, a glowing sphere of energy deep within the ship. As he placed his hands on the console, a surge of power coursed through him, and his vision blurred. He saw flashes of humanity's history, battles, triumphs, and sacrifices, all leading to this moment. The Singularity cannon activated, and a beam of pure, focused energy tore through the enemy fleet. Ships disintegrated instantly, their remains scattered like ashes across the void. The battle was over in seconds. As the wreckage drifted in silence, the Relic and the Vanguard resumed their journey. Vorkath emerged from the core chamber, his body weakened, but his resolve stronger than ever. Commander, Jarrus said, his voice filled with awe. What did you see? Vorkath looked out at the stars. I saw why they fought, and why we must continue. The Relic's engines roared as it sped toward Earth, carrying with it the hope and the burden of humanity's legacy. The journey to Earth continued in tense silence, the stars streaking past as the Relic and the Vanguard pushed their engines to their limits. Inside the Relic, Vorkath leaned against a console, his body still reeling from the effects of the neural connection to the ship's core. His mind raced with fragments of what he had seen: colossal battles, unimaginable sacrifices, and humanity's haunting last words. Jarrus hesitated before speaking. Commander, what did the core show you? You've been distant since the battle. Vorkath's eyes, sharper now and glinting with a strange new understanding, locked onto Jarrus. I saw the truth. Humanity didn't just sacrifice themselves to stop the cycle. They became the wall that held it back. Their disappearance wasn't an act of defeat. It was an act of defiance. Before Jarrus could respond, Eos Prime's hologram materialized. We are approaching the Sol system. Prepare for re-entry. The display showed their destination: Earth, the homeworld of humanity, surrounded by an asteroid field dense with debris. The remnants of ancient battles littered the void, a testament to the wars humanity fought long before their disappearance. As the ships entered the asteroid field, automated defenses sprang to life. Turrets hidden within the debris fired relentlessly, their targeting systems unable to distinguish friend from foe. The Relic and Vanguard moved in perfect unison, weaving through the chaos with an elegance that seemed almost choreographed. Admiral Alien's hologram appeared beside Eos Prime. The defense grid is still operational. It sees us as threats. Eos, disable it. Eos Prime's voice was calm but firm. The defense grid predates my systems. Manual deactivation is required. Vorkath stepped forward. Where do we go? The hologram displayed a map of Earth's orbit, highlighting a massive space station hidden within the debris. It was ancient yet functional, its design bearing the same unmistakable marks of human ingenuity. "The station controls the grid," Eos Prime explained. "Deactivate it, and we can land." A small shuttle launched from the Relic, carrying Vorkath, Jarrus, and a handful of crew members toward the station. As they approached, its enormous gates groaned open, revealing a dark, silent interior. The walls were lined with dormant machines, their purposes long forgotten. "Stay alert," Vorkath ordered, his hand resting on the hilt of his weapon. The group advanced cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the vast, empty corridors. Jarrus studied the walls, noticing inscriptions in the same ancient human script they'd seen before. One phrase, repeated over and over, sent chills down his spine. "Only the worthy may enter." They reached the central control room, where a single console pulsed faintly. As Vorkath approached, a hologram flickered to life, this time of a human figure in ceremonial armor. Its face was stern, its eyes unyielding. "State your identity," the hologram commanded. Vorkath hesitated. "We are travelers, seeking to end the defense grid so we can land on Earth." The hologram's gaze seemed to pierce through him. "Only those who carry humanity's spark may proceed. Do you bear it?" Jarrus stepped forward. "What does that mean?" "We're not human, but we've come this far to honor their legacy." The hologram's expression softened. "The spark is not of flesh, it is of spirit. Show me your resolve." Before anyone could respond, the station's systems came alive. Panels opened, revealing drones armed with energy weapons. They surrounded the crew, their movements swift and calculated. "The test has begun," the hologram declared. "Prove your worth." The crew fought desperately, their weapons barely enough to hold off the drones. Jarrus ducked behind a console, shouting, "Commander, this isn't just a fight, it's a trial." "What kind of trial?" Vorkath demanded, slashing through a drone with his blade. "A test of unity," Jarrus realized. "The core showed you humanity's sacrifice. They didn't survive alone, they survived together." Vorkath's eyes widened as understanding dawned. He shouted to his crew, "Hold the line. Protect each other." The tide began to turn as the crew moved as one, covering each other's weaknesses and fighting with newfound purpose. The drones, sensing the shift, ceased their attack and retreated. The hologram reappeared, nodding approvingly. "You have shown the spark. Humanity's legacy is safe in your hands." The console activated, and the defense grid deactivated. The station's hologram spoke one last time. "Proceed to Earth, but be warned, what you seek may change you forever." The Relic and Vanguard descended through Earth's atmosphere, the planet's surface shrouded in thick clouds. As the ships broke through, the crew gasped at the sight below. Earth was not the barren wasteland they had expected. It was vibrant, teeming with life. Forests stretched across continents, oceans sparkled under the sun, and strange, glowing structures dotted the landscape. Jarrus stared in awe. "It's beautiful. But how?" Eos Prime's voice answered, its tone almost reverent. Earth's restoration was humanity's final gift. The cycle could not take this world, for they shielded it with their very essence. The ships landed in a vast clearing, where a towering monument stood. It bore the names of countless humans, etched into its surface, and at its base was a single phrase: "We endure, for the galaxy must thrive." As the crew explored the monument, a soft hum filled the air. The Relic and Vanguard began to glow faintly, their systems synchronizing with the structures around them. Eos Prime's hologram appeared once more. "The heart of humanity lies beneath this monument," it said, "the final piece of their legacy. Are you prepared to face it?" Vorkath looked at his crew, their faces filled with a mix of fear and determination. He nodded. "We've come this far. Let's finish this." The monument began to shift, revealing a hidden passage leading deep into the earth. With weapons drawn and hearts steeled, the crew descended into the unknown, ready to uncover the truth of humanity's ultimate sacrifice and their own role in the galaxy's future. The revelation. The crew descended into the hidden passage beneath the monument, their path lit by soft, glowing lights embedded in the walls. The air grew cooler and heavier, each step echoing with the weight of history. The deeper they went, the more the walls came alive with holographic projections of humans, figures standing tall, their faces both resolute and sorrowful. Vorkath felt the weight of their gazes, though they were not real. "These aren't just images," he murmured. "They're memories." Jarrus examined the nearest projection, watching as a human leader spoke in a language the ship's systems translated. "To those who find this, you carry the hope of the galaxy. Let our sacrifice guide you, not in war, but in wisdom." The passage ended in a massive chamber filled with an otherworldly glow. At its center stood an enormous crystalline structure, pulsing softly with light. Encased within were countless figures, humans frozen in perfect stasis. They stood as though waiting, their expressions calm, their hands outstretched toward the galaxy they had left behind. Eos Prime appeared beside them, its hologram brighter than ever. This is the heart of humanity, their final act to preserve what they valued most, the galaxy's future. The crew stood in stunned silence as the truth unfolded. The stasis pods weren't just a preservation chamber, they were a failsafe. Jarrus pieced it together, his voice trembling. "These aren't just individuals, they're the architects of everything, their greatest minds, leaders, and innovators. They gave up everything to hold back the cycle." Eos Prime nodded. When the cycle threatened to consume all, humanity chose to sacrifice themselves to stop it. But their stasis was not for survival, it was for guidance. When the galaxy could no longer sustain itself, they would awaken. Vorkath clenched his fists. But why wait until now? Why not return earlier when they could have rebuilt? The crystal pulsed in response to his words, and the projections of human leaders appeared again, their voices resonant and clear. Because power unchecked leads to ruin. The galaxy needed time to forget its dependence on us, to grow on its own. Only now, with the cycle's return, do we rise once more, not to rule, but to stand alongside those who have inherited our legacy. Above the planet, chaos brewed. The remaining alien fleets, led by Admiral Kavan, had arrived in orbit, determined to destroy what they did not understand. They fired upon the Vanguard and the Relic, their desperation fueling their assault. Admiral Alien's hologram appeared on the Relic. They won't stop. They fear what humanity represents. Eos Prime's tone was firm. Defensive systems will hold, but not indefinitely. The heart must be activated. Vorkath turned to the crystal. What happens when it's activated? Eos Prime hesitated. The heart's power will awaken humanity's collective consciousness, but it will require a sacrifice. The energy required to initiate the awakening cannot be drawn from the ships alone. Jarrus stepped forward. "You mean, someone has to give their life?" The room fell silent. Vorkath looked at his crew, then back at the crystal. "If that's what it takes, then so be it. Humanity deserves to finish what they started." Before he could act, the crystal pulsed again. The stasis pods flickered to life, their occupants stirring. A voice, calm yet commanding, filled the chamber. "No sacrifice is needed. You have proven your worth." The humans within the crystal began to awaken, their eyes opening as if from a deep sleep. One of them stepped forward, their form materializing into a living, breathing presence. They were tall, clad in a shimmering uniform that seemed to merge with the light around them. "I am Aaron Vaylor, custodian of the heart," the figure said, their voice resonating with both strength and kindness. "You have carried the spark well. We owe you a debt of gratitude." Outside, the battle reached its peak. The alien fleets had breached the Vanguard's defenses, their ships converging on Earth. But before they could fire, The heart unleashed a wave of energy that rippled through the void. It wasn't a weapon. It was a message. The alien fleets halted as the energy reached them, their systems overridden by a single broadcast. The holographic image of Aaron Veller appeared on every ship, their voice calm yet unyielding. Children of the galaxy, lay down your arms. Humanity does not return as conquerors, but as protectors. The cycle has come again, and only together can we stand against it. The fleets hesitated, their commanders frozen with uncertainty. Admiral Caven, his pride and fear clashing, growled into his communicator. This is manipulation. Fire on the planet. But his crew didn't respond. The heart's energy had reached them, filling them with an overwhelming sense of unity and purpose. For the first time, the galaxy's divisions seemed insignificant. Back in the chamber, Aaron Veller turned to Vorkath and his crew. The cycle approaches. Humanity will lead the charge, but we cannot do it alone. Will you stand with us? Vorkath met Aaron's gaze, his voice steady. We will. Jarrus nodded. We all will. The heart pulsed again, sending a final wave of light across the galaxy. Stasis pods aboard the Relic and Vanguard unlocked, releasing more humans who had been hidden among the stars. Across the galaxy, ancient systems activated, and humanity's fleet began to awaken. As the combined forces of humans and aliens prepared for the cycle's arrival, Vorkath stood on the bridge of the Relic, looking out at the stars. For the first time, he felt hope, not just for humanity's legacy, but for the galaxy's future. And as the first signs of the cycle appeared on the horizon, a voice echoed in his mind. Human and alien, united. We endure together.